Okay guys, this video I'm going to help you out with review C to help you get better ready for the test that's coming up. So in number 1, you have to express the number in terms of I. That has to do with taking the square root of a negative number. We get an imaginary solution, not a real number solution. So whenever you see the negative inside of a square root, you must pull out an I. So it'd be I times the square root of 3. Then after that, you would try to reduce or simplify the radical. However, square root of 3 is just a prime number. It cannot have 2 of a kind in its factors. All right, so number 2, we have a negative inside, so we pull out an I. And then the square root of 49 we know is 7, so it's I times 7, and write it as 7I. Number 3, pull out an I for the negative. The square root of 28, we're going to break down on the side using a factor tree. So 4 times 7, and then 4 can be broken up as 2 times 2. Now we have a 2 of a kind, so that means a 2 can come out with the I. So we make it 2I. And then the 7 did not get paired up, so it's left inside the radical. So notice my order that I wrote my answer. I wrote 2I, then the square root of 7. Please don't write I2. All right, number 4 is a little tricky. We have a negative outside of the radical. Just carry that down. The negative inside of the radical, we pull out an I. Now I'm going to try to break down 75 to see if I can simplify this radical. 75 can be 25 times 3. 25 can be 5 and 5. So I have a 2 of a kind that comes out. So it'll be negative 5I. And then this 3 that did not get paired up gets thrown back in the radical. Negative 5I times the square root of 3 is the answer. Next, we are going to add. We can see the plus sign in between the parentheses. So we're adding these two complex numbers. All we have to do is combine like terms, a very easy section. Negative 4 plus 9 is 5. And then 8I plus negative 4I, that would be 8I minus 4I is 4I. Then put a plus since it's positive. And remember to write your answers in the form A plus BI, or A minus BI. All right, we have subtraction in between the parentheses, so we're going to be really careful here. Negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. Then negative 7I minus negative 3I. Again, be very careful here. That would be negative 7I plus 3I, which is minus 4I. So there's your answer right there. All right, next up, this is showing multiplying. So we're going to distribute here. 4I times 3 is 12I. Then 4I times negative 6I. 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. And then I times I, be careful, is I squared. We also learned in a previous lesson that when you cannot have an I squared in your answer. This must be changed into negative 1. And then negative 24 times negative 1 is plus 24. Bring down your 12I. But we're going to write it where the imaginary number's at the end. So let's just rearrange this. 24 plus 12I. Number 8 is nothing between parentheses, so we're going to be multiplying here. In fact, we're going to be foiling. So first times first. Multiply the outsides. Multiply the insides. And carefully multiply the last. 9I times negative 1I. So 9 times negative 1 would be negative 9. Then I times the I would be I squared. All right, let's combine these like terms here. Negative 4I plus 36I is 32I. And also this guy here, I squared, that's going to be negative 1. And negative 9 times negative 1 is 9. So plus 9. Now we're going to also add like terms again. We now have a new like term. 16 plus 9 will be 25. And then bring down the plus 32i. Number 9, 5 plus 7i squared means write it out twice and FOIL it. So first, outside, inside, and last. Carefully, 7 times 7, 49. I times I squared. These can combine to make plus 70i. We add them. This becomes 49 times negative 1, which is negative 49. Then you can combine like terms. 25 minus 49 is negative 24. Bring that down and done. All right, number 10, we are not allowed to have denominators with imaginary numbers. So we have to multiply by a special fraction. We look at the denominator. It is 5 minus 4i, so we have to do the conjugate of that, which is 5 plus 4i. So we're going to be foiling the top, foiling the bottom, and then combining like terms. So let me start with the top. First times first, outsides, insides, and last. Let's continue to simplify that. 12i plus 10i will be plus 22i. And then this, the I squared, that becomes 8 times negative 1, which is negative 8. And then you can do 15 minus 8 is 7. Bring down the 22i. Now let's FOIL the denominator. All right, first, outside, inside, and last. These guys add up to 0, so cancel them out. Bring down your 25. This becomes, the I squared becomes negative 1, so negative 16 times negative 1 is 16, so plus 16. And then 25 plus 16 is 41. And then I double check, can I reduce this fraction? Nope, nothing reduces with 41. Number 11, I can solve by factoring or taking the square root. I can't do the square root method here though, because I have this x term that's not allowed. So what I'm going to do, let's first get it equal to 0. So we're going to add, nope, we're not going to add, we're going to subtract 9. What I do is, if you're going to factor or use the quadratic formula, you need to set it equal to 0. But however, there is no quadratic formula option here, so because the directions say you got to solve by factoring. So this can be factored. You have a minus 20 for your c, so that means your signs are plus minus. X squared gets split up in x and x. And you got to think of your factors of 20. Signs got to be different, and they got to subtract to get negative 8. So that would be plus 2 and negative 10. Now, you need to go another step further. You need to tell me what x is equal to. Don't stop here. So remember, you just do your two little mini equations. Set them each up equal to 0, and then you solve them. You'd have negative 2, and the second one you would add 10 to get 10. There are your two answers. Okay, this guy, number 12, I can actually use the square root method here because I'm missing an x term. So let's get x squared by itself and then take the square root. First, we're going to subtract 24. Remember, square root method, we do not want to set equal to 0. We want it in the form x squared equals c, a constant. divide both sides by 4. So we have x squared equals 6. And then we take the square root. And don't forget a plus minus. So that square root cancels the exponent. So x equals plus minus, and the square root of 6 is just 2 and 3. So there is no 2 of a kind there. So square root of 6. So your two answers are square root of 6 and negative square root of 6. Number 13 is another problem that's missing a bx term, so we can solve by square roots here. So we're going to get x squared by itself. We're first going to add 48 to both sides. We're going to divide by 2. And now that x squared is by itself, we're going to take the square root of both sides. So we'll have x equals plus minus. Now let's break down the square root of 24. That can be 4 and 6. 4 is 2 and 2. 6 is 2 and 3. So 2 of a kind, we got a 2 that can come out. And then this 2 and this 3 did not get paired up. They got to be put back in the radical and remultiplied. 2 times 3 would get 6. So there's your two answers. Okay, next up, completing the square and then quadratic formula. These are the last two in the review. So for completing the square, we do not want it set equal to 0. So we're going to add 12. Then let's leave ourselves a little bit of space here. Next, we have to do the b over 2 squared. Got to memorize that. The b is 4. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. Then 2 squared is 4. Remember that 4, we add that to both sides. Now on the left side, we are actually going to factor. Remember, it's parentheses squared. And then remember the shortcut I taught you guys. This number, that is a positive 2, so you can write x plus 2. If this number was a negative, you would put a minus in your parentheses. And then on the right side, you're going to have 16. That came from the 12 plus 4 that you actually had to add above. All right, so we're solving by square roots here. We want to get rid of the parentheses squared by square rooting both sides. So that gets rid of the parentheses squared. So just bring down x plus 2. On the right side, plus minus, the square root of 16 is 4. Then you got to take one step further, get x by itself. You would subtract 2 from both sides. But don't leave it like this. There is no radical here, so you are going to get two real answers. Your first one, do negative 2 plus 4 is 2. Your second one, you're going to do negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. Moving on, last one, quadratic formula. So we do have it equal to 0, so we're good there. So a is 2, b is negative 3, c is negative 6. So let's plug into the formula. So negative b means opposite of b. So the b is negative 3, so double negatives would make a positive 3 here. So then we have plus minus, and then we have a b squared. So that'll be negative 3 squared. Then minus 4 times a times c. And then divided by 2a, which is 2 times a, so that's 2 times 2. Now, as I've taught you guys, you want to multiply 3 times in your first step. Here, squaring is multiplying. Here, multiply these three numbers and the two numbers at the bottom. So, negative 3 squared gets 9. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8, times negative 6 is 48, so plus 48. And the denominator, 2 times 2 is 4. Now we want to get the radical down to one number. 9 plus 48 is 57. Now, at this step where you got to be pretty careful, we do have a square root, and we want to see if we can simplify that radical. Can you simplify 57? 57 divides by 3 to get 19, and 19 is prime, so there's no 2 of a kind there. So there's nothing left we can do here. This ugly thing gives us our 2 answers. And that, guys, is the end of the review. Good luck on your test.